So, FYI. Just an FYI. All right, here we go.
Live?
Yep. All right, here we go. Yep.
How do you share it?
Sometimes you don't quite know what you want. Hip-hop or hip-hop, modern country or classic R&B, rock and rap. Maybe even your favorite podcast. You're just going to skip through and see finally what you're looking for. Right now on Spotify, limited to 6 skips an hour. But with premium, you can have as many skips as you want. All your music, all your podcasts, right there, right in front of you. Want to try it out for 30 days? Tap the banner. Check out Spotify to learn more. Even times like these, you can
How'd you get that?
$240 till we go live. Till the show starts. We're live on Clovercrest Media. I did on my Facebook. I'll share it out on Instagram if I can somehow.
How'd you share it on your Facebook?
You just share it. Come on, Stone Age.
Most kids just might find out that the word they associate with
No.
How'd you get that?
No, it really is music so loud. No, you can't stop your mouth. There's food at home. The folks at Six Flags Great Adventure think it's time for a little yes. In fact, the word no isn't even in their vocabulary. You want to experience great thrilling rides? Well, come on down. Six Flags Great Adventure. So big, so close, so fast, so yes. Open Saturday and Sunday. For more information, please call 908-928-1841.
You're listening to 99 in Attack. Here's today's
Get a minute 45, minute 40 till we first segment.
Getting ready to rock and roll.
Got a minute. We are live on Clovercrest Media. Hello, everybody out there.
Hello, hello, hello.
Only could share it on Instagram. That would have been big. Sorry. I can do link in bio.
How much time we got?
40 seconds. $25 seconds.
This is Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
8 seconds. Good morning, everybody. We're coming here live on Clovercrest Media 99.9 The Attack. Unsportsmanlike Conduct. I'm your host today, Alex Jaworski, joined by Justin Turpin and Stephen Murray behind the glass. Justin, how are we doing this morning?
Doing all right, Alex. Thank you. Happy to be on Clovercrest 99.9 The Attack.
Excited to be here.
Excited to be here.
Steve, how are we doing today, man?
Doing good. Excited to be on the show.
Doing good. So we're ready to get right into it here. AFC divisional playoffs coming off of super wild card weekend. The Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Cleveland Browns kicking off the divisional round this weekend, of course. We'll get it right into it. Ravens-Bills first off. Very exciting matchup. I go number 2 matchup for the weekend here. My little Mount Rushmore, if you want to call it. Justin, I know you're very excited for this matchup as well.
I certainly am very excited for this matchup. And would you believe me if I told you the MVP from last year, Lamar Jackson, who's a quarterback, and I use that term very lightly, has his passing offense ranked 32nd in the NFL? There's 32 teams, Alex. That means they are last.
Yes, I mean, some of his throws referenced as the third down punt on Saturday against the Titans. So, I mean, you've had your displeasure with him as a quarterback, and oftentimes have mentioned him as a running back. I mean, it's blatantly obvious he's great on the feet. I don't know about so much through the air.
Right. As we saw, the third down punt. When a quarterback's throw is being referred to as a third down punt, I mean, that's not very good, Alex, is it?
Kind of tough when the ball's going over end to end. I mean, to Hollywood Brown going to third down and going to the sidelines. I mean,
way short.
Yeah,
way short.
Way short. And on the other hand, for the Bills, seemingly doubled a better quarterback in Josh Allen. Arguably the better quarterback.
Josh Allen, he's an MVP finalist now, and he's had a great year. Alex, we had him up there as a potential dark horse for an MVP going into the season. And had Aaron Rodgers not run away with it, the MVP race would have been a lot tighter had Aaron Rodgers not run away at the end of the year, as the finalists are Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen, and Henry. But Josh Allen's had a great year.
Now, I didn't mean to say, Allen being the better quarterback. I mean, certainly the better arm. There's no doubt there. Seemingly, Josh Allen, though, a lot more weapons on his side, going to boost his game. On the other hand, though, you got Baltimore with their secondary. I mean, they'll be tested by a Baltimore defense that allowed 330 total yards per game during the regular season, 7th best in the league. The Bills going to have to win this one through the air. I mean, Singletary, Zach Moss, seemingly helping out the running game there. Josh Allen, no doubt, going to get it done through the air, or going to have to get it done through the air.
Right. Buffalo's rushing offense ranks 20th in the league this year. The rushing offense hasn't nearly been as good as their passing offense. But a little fun fact for you here, Alex. Josh Allen is 5-0 against top 10 defenses this season. Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad for a little 2018 draft pick. Another storyline coming into the game, Lamar and Allen getting drafted in the 2018 draft class. Both were after Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Allen going 7th, Buffalo moving up. Lamar going at the end of the round, 32nd overall. And seemingly a draft class that's starting to come around quarterback rise. Josh Rosen's kind of like the forgotten child, the redheaded stepchild kind of deal. This draft class has come a long way, certainly.
It sure has. In a draft class that was getting a lot of hype, and they're starting to really come around and live up to it. Josh Rosen, of course, like you said, left at home. Poor guy, never really got a shot. I mean, he got a couple of shots, but I mean, he just never really showed it. Sam Darnold, we'll see what happens with him if he goes back to New York or if a new head coaching regime comes in and ships him out. Maybe Justin Fields goes there. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But this 2018 draft class of quarterbacks is really starting to turn around and turn into the quarterbacks that we expected when they were drafted.
It's no doubt Allen and Jackson have been a winning quarterback. Obviously, like we said, Allen with the arm, Lamar with the feet. Only problem being, again, for Allen, that Baltimore defense, we can't stress it enough, also allowed 221 passing yards a game, 6th least in the league. All-pro corners Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey have helped lead a defense that allowed just 19 points per game, which is 2nd in the league, and 22 passing touchdowns, tied for 5th during the regular season. Obviously, putting another thorn in Allen's side.
Buffalo ranks 3rd in passing in the NFL this season. Like I said, top 5 defenses haven't been a problem for Josh Allen. It's amazing what a number 1 receiver does for a quarterback that so desperately needed one. A guy who made John Brown look like a superstar finally gets Stephon Diggs, who leads the league in receptions.
Allen making John Brown look like a wide receiver 1, where he's really nowhere close. Obviously, the addition of Stephon Diggs. Bolstering a complete night and day. And obviously, John Brown complimenting him, Cole Beasley getting in the mix. Even the tight ends. I mean, a tight end position where if you're not George Kittle or you're not Travis Kelce, you're not really kind of in the mix tight end wise. Maybe,
right, the tight ends are
I don't really know.
Were a couple years ago where you had Zach Ertz and Rob Gronkowski, had a couple more names floating around there. Not really. If your name isn't Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, or George Kittle, I mean, who are we really looking at for tight ends? Maybe Bob Tunyon out of Green Bay, Big Bobby, but Big Bob Tunyon. But speaking of Stephon Diggs, I don't know if you knew this. Minnesota Miracle, 3 years ago to the day, today.
An incredible sports moment, certainly, but we'll get right to predictions here. Buffalo, Baltimore. Don't forget the snow. Don't forget Lamar not liking the snow.
Never played a snow game. He told ESPN he does not want this to be his first.
Only game he's played in the snow is a snowball fight. Justin, I'll go to you first for a prediction.
Well, I'm going to think Lamar lost that snowball fight, judging by the way he throws a football. Buffalo's 11-3 at home in the playoffs in their team history. Buffalo's the better team. They can move the ball, and I like Buffalo at home. I'm going to go with the Bills on this. Let's go, Bills Mafia. No folding table is safe in Buffalo.
Steve, what do we think about Buffalo and Baltimore this weekend?
I'm gonna go Buffalo all the way. I mean, like you guys said about the snow and everything, Lamar is not good in the snow, so I gotta go with Buffalo.
Like Justin said, no folding table will be safe. If I'm a Baltimore fan, I'm not so sure I can be comfortable going into this matchup because it really could go either way. I'm going to go Buffalo. They're just on a tear from what they've done this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Baltimore's shown signs of weakness, certainly during the course of the year. Lamar, if he can't get the feet going, he's certainly not going to get the ball going through the air, especially in a snow game, which he's never played.
Before we move on, I just want to remind everyone wants to talk about the fact that Baltimore's won 6 straight games. Buffalo's won 7, and I'm no math guy, but 7's greater than 6.
Yes.
Give me the Bills.
Wow. How'd you come up with that one?
Grade school. I learned it in grade school.
That's pretty good math there. We'll get right into the next game here. Chiefs and Browns from Arrowhead. Chiefs open this one up as large favorites, so to say.
Right, they'll have Kevin Stefanski back on the sideline. My pick for Coach of the Year, what he's done for the Browns this year has been incredible, really taking Baker Mayfield to the next level with his quarterback play. But they have a tall task going into Kansas City against these Chiefs, where Andy Reid is 25-5 in his career after a bye week, including the playoffs. He's won 6 straight off the bye. Also, Andy Reid is 7-0 against the Browns as a head coach in his career. Not the typical kind of what you want to go into when you're the Cleveland Browns, coming off a good win against Pittsburgh, but this is going to be a tough task.
A team that went into Pittsburgh back-to-back weeks and won, yes, against a Mason Rudolph-led Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, we know the whole deal. But again, Baker is finding his stride. He has his playoff win with Cleveland. He's, more or less the guy now. He's their guy. He's shown up the past couple weeks. I think that's certainly been a plus for Cleveland. The only problem being their defense. They've allowed 26.2 points per game, and their scoring defense just ranked 21st in the NFL. Obviously, they showed up, so to say, in the Steelers game scoring-wise for the defense. But opposing teams scored 30 or more points in 7 regular season games.
And that's not what you want to see against the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
No, but they allowed an average of 17 points in their last 3 games. So again, are they clicking at the right? I mean, this is no better time to get going than right now. Right. Divisional playoffs. I mean, hello, this is where you want to find your stride. I mean, I don't think they really found it any time in the first 17 weeks of this year.
And another little nugget for you. Quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall, which Baker Mayfield was, are 1-5 against Andy Reid in their careers in the postseason.
Yeah,
I like Kansas City in this one.
Another little Bill Belichick stat there, the rookie quarterback stat. It's
not rookie quarterback, excuse me. Drafted number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall pick, rather. I mean, and again, another point to the Browns defense. They're susceptible to the big play. They allowed 10 plays of 40-plus yards this year. That's 7th most in the NFL. We haven't really touched on Kansas City real quick. I mean, Mahomes, Hill, Robinson, Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce. I mean, they live and die the big play, and they're going to get it 99.9% of the time. Travis
Kelce setting a new tight end record for most receiving yards in a single season. Tyreek Hill, we know what they're capable of. We saw it against the Buccaneers. We see what they can do. For Cleveland, the Browns are 11-0 when they win or tie the turnover differential this season. And this season, including the playoff win over Pittsburgh, Cleveland has to turn Mahomes over for a chance to win this game.
Right, and again, one more stat here to round the segment off. Among the 8 teams left in the playoff field, nobody allowed more passing yards than the Browns this season, 248 average passing yards per game. Mahomes is going to have to get it done through the air. Browns are going to have to force turnovers on him. Justin, Browns, Chiefs, what do we got for a pick?
Like I said, the Browns are going to have to control the turnover differential to win this game, much like they did against Pittsburgh. I think it's a lot easier to do so against Big Ben than it is Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I don't like their chances going into Kansas City. I like the Chiefs.
I I would hopefully second you in a couple moments here. Steve, what do we got, Chiefs and Browns?
I'm going with the Chiefs all the way.
Going with the Chiefs all the way. Like I said, Browns need Mahomes to turn the ball over. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, the Chiefs, heavy favorites. You got to ride the Chiefs. Super Bowl bound, in my opinion. Who is on the other side of that in the NFC? We'll get into that a little later in the program, but real quick before we head to break. NBA COVID restrictions put new in place just a few days ago. They're pretty ridiculous, Justin, wouldn't you say?
They are absolutely pretty ridiculous. And Alex and I have $1 million idea.
$1 million idea. You'll hear it. And the protocols right after this quick break. How we look?
Good.
Got Tucker Dodes in the chat. Chiefs dead last in the red zone defense. Huge come playoff time. I mean, hey, can the Browns get in the red zone? That'll be their biggest problem. I mean, Baker Mayfield seemingly loves to stall in the middle of the field. I say so, Justin.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Tucker Rhodes, I see him right in there right now. I just figured out how to open up the comments.
Ah, there you go.
Not very Facebook savvy.
So for all the Clovercrest people in the stream, we got commercials going on for the radio final. Not 100% sure if you can hear them or not, but we got them through the speakers in the studio, got them in the classroom as well. We might not be able to hear them, but
I'm not sure if they can hear them. I think they can just hear us, but the commercials are running. What do we got left in commercial time?
We got 2 minutes left in commercial break, including sports update from our very own Stephen Murray.
Stephen Murray right here, right there. Stephen Murray.
Next to Justin Turpin. JT Jeremy Torres will be joining us for UFC.
His UFC Fight Bite.
A couple more segments here. We come up on 1:45 until we're back. JT Jeremy Torres will be joining us for UFC. His UFC Fight Bite. A couple more segments here. We come up on 1:45 until we're back. JT Jeremy Torres will join us for UFC. His UFC Fight Bite. A couple more segments here. We come up on 1:45 until we're back. Got a minute left here. A minute left for our next segment, NBA COVID protocols.
And they are pretty ridiculous, as we said before heading to break.
So again, for everybody joining, we got Mr. Turpin. Well, we get Steve Turpin. No commercials from the crowd. So if you're just joining, we do have a couple commercials running for our radio final. We also have a sports update from Steve Murray going. So you are not able to hear him, but just so you know, we are technically in a break.
What if you played him over the board?
As we've got half a second left. I could play them over the board. You're
Play
right.
him over the board.
I already got them in my ear, so I don't want to get too crazy.
It's almost over.
Yeah, we got to have 20 seconds. Ten seconds.
Nice little rejoiner there by JT.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're back. Second segment of the day. NBA COVID protocols. Justin, we had touched on these the last couple of days on our podcast, the Redline podcast. We think they're pretty ridiculous. And, I mean,
They certainly are.
sure are.
Let's jump into them here. No hugging or interaction of rival players on court pre and post game. No tapping hands during free throws, which you usually only do with your own teammates anyway.
That you're, in the locker room, on the plane, on the bus, hotel, whatever it might be.
On the road, players and staff can't leave the hotel except for team activities and emergencies. I'm not quite sure what constitutes an emergency.
I mean,
what about a lack of toilet paper?
We've talked about it. Steve very wisely mentioned that the maids can bring, the housekeepers, or whatever they're called nowadays. They can bring the toilet paper. But my point was, you clog that very toilet in your hotel room, the housekeeper's not coming to clean it.
No,
you're SOL.
Alex and I are staying at the Comfort Inn over in Hartford, and I'm yet to see a single plunger.
I mean, that's good mentally because I won't want to go ahead and do the duty, so to say. Right. But obviously NBA players not being able to leave their hotel room unless it's an emergency. I mean, that's pretty restricting when you're in a town for 2 or 3 days at a time. I'm not really sure how long they are located in each town or city with the COVID schedule. You're there for a few days. What, you're going to sit in your hotel room every day?
Right. Pre-game meetings in the locker room limited to 10 minutes. And the league has implemented cool-down chairs arranged 12 feet from the bench. Players can go there immediately after leaving the court during the game, but they must return to a regular seat on the bench while wearing a mask. Alex, we've got $1 million idea here. We
do. I mean, the cool down zone has to be taken up. And this is $1 million idea for everybody watching.
And we're no marketing guys. I don't know about Alex. I took 2 marketing classes in high school, so I know my bits and pieces. But Alex, this is a great idea.
I only took one. Okay, I only took one sports marketing class, and it was shut down due to the pandemic, or the in-person learning part shut down. Gatorade needs to get on the phone to the NBA marketing department. They need to sponsor the cool down zone. I mean, hello. $1 million, literally $1 million idea that they can come up with.
They can literally run a monopoly in the NBA. They already got the back of the chairs. Most of the teams on the benches, most of them slap the Gatorade logo on the back of the chair. They've got the Gatorade towels. They got the Gatorade cups. Even in NBA 2K, when your guy's tired, when you've been running them too much, a little Gatorade cup comes up.
Right.
Now, if you want to lock up everything, get the Gatorade cool down zone.
And I will go out of my way to say I did come up with the idea.
You will.
You did, however, come up with an even better part where it's kind of like a penalty box setting.
Right.
Where it's just Gatorade plastered everywhere. Logo, paraphernalia, towels. I mean, actual Gatorade. I mean, it doesn't actually have to be, surrounded by glass and you're encased in some kind of,
It's surrounded by a Gatorade tent. So when you go into the cool down zone, they have a little camera in there. Obviously, no one's allowed in the cool down zone because the players aren't masked. They have a little camera in there that just has everything's Gatorade. If the players are drinking water, it's still in a Gatorade cup because Gatorade doesn't make water, which, again, $1 million idea if Gatorade was to make water. You looked it up yesterday, Body Armor.
Body Armor doesn't – it's not like Poland Springs. It's not like, your Walmart brand, your Stop and Shop brand where they have a spring. I mean, Body Armor just puts together the hydrogen oxygen seemingly, and they make water. There's no intel on where they make it. Why isn't Gatorade making their own water? I mean, hello, Body Armor, Gatorade. You want to compete. There's another $1 million. I mean, our brains have to be worth at least $10 million.
What is it? 70% of the world is water, and Gatorade can't get like 2% of that? They don't even need to. Get like 1%.
But
that might even be too much.
For COVID protocols in the NBA, the cool down zone needs to be sponsored. I want to get a quick quote here from George Hill telling ESPN, I'm a grown man. I'm going to do what I want when I want to do it. If I want to go see my family, I'm going to see my family. They can't tell me I have to stay in a room 24/7. If it's that serious, then maybe we shouldn't be playing. But it's life. No one's going to be able to just cancel their whole life for the game, to which I came with a point. The players now have such a strength empowering, movement. They maybe before they didn't have that power that they did after the racial injustice movement, police reform movement that they did early on in the summer, where they shut down the league for. I mean, these guys have a voice. Now their voice is louder than ever.
Boycott. That was nothing to do with the league. And again, I was saying this earlier that I feel terrible for Adam Silver, a guy who starting last year has to deal with the death of Kobe Bryant, obviously shook up the league, reforms the All-Star game into a great way that raises money and was actually more entertaining. And then you get the COVID pandemic. You have players. NBA was ultimately ground zero.
Right.
They were the first ones to postpone their season, first one to have a positive test within their organization. So you look at that, then you shut it down, then they go to the bubble.
Right.
And they were kind of the first ones to implement the bubble, where the NHL followed after.
And they were, like you said, number one. They had to make the call because sports would have followed seemingly whatever NBA had done. I mean, they said, hey, we're going to keep playing until this gets bad. Who knows what could have happened? They're going to say, you know what, we're going to put it on pause. Silver doing a great job.
You get to the bubble, and you get the police reform and all the players pushing for that movement, which was great. And Adam Silver and the NBA, they gave the players a platform to kind of share their views, where they can wear the jerseys, where they were able to put messages on the back of the jerseys. They put Black Lives Matter on the court. You know, they did a great job. The NBA did a great job, and it gave the players more of a reason to play.
Right.
Because it gave them a voice in such a troubling time. And now you look at this, and we're 2.5 weeks into the NBA season, and we are already getting struck with a bunch of COVID cases all over.
And, you know, there's seemingly been already an uproar from all the players. To my point, I would not be shocked if we saw some kind of boycott. You know, they have their voice. If they're already frustrated, I mean, we've made the point before, the 76ers have been the worst victim here, having to trot out an injured player just to field an 8-player team,
right,
just to play. And they were, again, with 8 players last night, 2 nights ago against Miami, which they won in overtime, seemed like.
Well, with the Joel Embiid 45-point game.
Yes. But you know what? They're the exact example of why there could be a player strike due to this COVID protocol and how, you know, hopefully, I in all honesty, I hope things get better, obviously.
Right.
You don't know how that can be. These protocols are, you know, they give a little sliver of, you know, maybe if one person would have it, it would give them, say, you know, hotel they can isolate, whatever it might be. It's much better for the NBA if the players are happy, and it's no secret.
Right. Well, that's any job, any organization, that's any kind of team setting anywhere. But if you look at it just for our hometown Celtics here, Celtics have had their last 3 games postponed against the Heat, Bulls, and Magic. Players that have tested positive is Jason Tatum and Robert Williams. And the players that have gone into quarantine due to the contact tracing is Jaylen Brown, Javonte Green, Semi Ojeleye, Grant Williams, and Tristan Thompson. All of those players have been affected. The Celtics haven't had enough players to field a team all week. So it's kind of interesting, though, is that the NFL, they have 50-something players on a roster, and you have dozens of personnel. They were able,
including your practice squad.
Including the practice squad, right. And they were able to finish their season really without any cancellations. They had postponements, but if you look at the NFL season, it was really the Titans and the Ravens that had the COVID breakouts that kind of postponed some of the games. They didn't have to cancel anything.
Right.
And it's kind of like, what's the NBA doing differently? Is their contact tracing too extreme? But is it possible to be too extreme? And it's just another task that Adam Silver's faced with that's just difficult.
Obviously, global pandemic, sports show, again, no secret, global pandemic is going to throw a wrench in the majority of all plans in the lifetime here. I mean, Justin, real quick, what are we going to see from the NBA going forward? Will we have that lockdown? What will we see?
I think it could be onto something with the boycott. In my personal opinion, I think they just got to power through it. I really do. I don't think we can get the people saying bubbling up. It's just not going to happen again.
No,
there's no way they bubble up again. There's no way. In my personal opinion, I think you just got to power through it, and I think the NBA is doing all they can, given the circumstances. Obviously, a global pandemic. What can you really do?
And to move on and to get right in a break, one sport that was active throughout the pandemic, MMA, the UFC, Dana White, they're coming in hot to 2021. 3 fights in 7 days. That starts Saturday. Cater against Holloway. But to headline the whole 3-fight week, we got Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. McGregor calling again for a minute knockout in the first round. We're going to have JT joining us. Can he get it done again? I'll tell you how right after this break.
As we get JT in the studio here for the UFC bit.
Having a great time here. JT joining Justin in the studio there. Thanks again to Joe getting us on Clovercrest.
Thank you, Joe.
Getting a little audience here. A couple friends of the program. We got Tucker Adoti. Steve Turpin, of course. Mr. Turpin.
And there's JT coming in right next to me here, the UFC expert.
Got 3 minutes till we're out of break here. Again, if you're just joining us, we got commercials going for the radio final. You are not able to hear them, but as I struggle with my headphones here. Get commercials going for our radio final on the audio side through Clovercrest, through StreamYard, which we're using. Can't quite hear them, but I'll put them together throughout the program, so very excited.
You got your notes on your phone?
Trying to share this out everywhere I can here. Got 2 segments left. Got about 20 minutes on the show here, segment-wise, so don't want to get out of that
We
share.
got the NFC.
NFC, UFC segment coming up next. NFC to close out the show.
Yeah.
Talk Tom Brady and the Saints, obviously.
No, but I
Share this to Snapchat.
I think I
3 minutes till we're out of break
Yeah.
here. Again, if you're just joining us, we got commercials going for the radio final. You aren't able to hear them. Got
And
2
the
minutes.
Celtics are expected to return this Friday.
Finally.
Finally.
I didn't want to mention it on air, but GT taking a little power nap. You got to do what you got to do.
JT's up now. He uses the eyes as what's the eye shade thing when you try to sleep and you don't want the sun to wake you up. He uses the mask as like one of those. That's JT's favorite move.
Got to do what you got to do. That's all. How do I? We got 1:15 till we're back in the show. Trying to get this link copied. Can't seem to figure it out. Here we go. I didn't copy it, huh?
And we got the UFC coming up, still to come. NFC.
Got 20 seconds left before we're back in it.
Hey, JT.
You with us, JT?
There's JT.
There. Back on program. Great rejoiner done by JT there as we're back. 99.9 The Attack. Justin, Alex, your host, and we're joined by JT, UFC analyst / expert. JT, how we doing Thursday afternoon now?
doing great. Great to be here.
JT's happy to be here. You know what? UFC 257, Poirier versus McGregor, headlining the UFC's opening into 2021. 3 fights in a week, headlined again by Poirier and McGregor too. JT's joined us along here. He's going to spit some knowledge for UFC with us. JT, UFC 257 is going to be a rematch from Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier's meeting at UFC 178 in September of 2014. Conor McGregor delivered a first-round TKO victory over Poirier. These guys now, Poirier being 26-6, McGregor's 22-4. JT, it's been 7-some-odd years, close to 7 now, since the last 2 guys squared off. What is the differences in both of these guys' fighting games so far, 7 years ahead?
Well, they definitely both have grown from that fight, several years ago. Uh, I feel like it's not going to be as simple for McGregor this time around. He's definitely going to have to work for it. It's going to be a long, drawn out bloodbath, I think.
JT going with a long, drawn out bloodbath, as McGregor calls for a what he said was a 60-second knockout inside the first round. Inside a minute, he's going to finish Poirier. How come McGregor back up his plan there, JT?
I like I said, I think Poirier is gonna make it like his fight with Hooker. Just an intense, brutal, to the end.
So
sort of fight.
You're going with the slugfest there, as he's been 10-2. Dustin Poirier's been 10-2 with a no contest since his last fight against McGregor. He's then beaten Max Holloway, Anthony Pettis, Eddie Alvarez, and Justin Gaethje, losing to Khabib.
Pretty good resume there.
Yeah, losing to only Khabib and Michael Johnson. McGregor is 6-2 since the fight, not as active, but probably has the more earning side of the bout. McGregor has lost to Nate Diaz and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I will be very interested to see this fight. Again, like I said, McGregor calling it a knockout inside 60 seconds. I would love to see it. But again, these guys are much more experienced since their fight 6-7 years ago. Justin, as the Fairweather fan, self-proclaimed, as you say, what's your excitement level for this fight?
I mean, anytime Conor McGregor steps into a fight, it's always more than a fight, if that makes sense. Everyone knows who Conor McGregor is.
Right. 100%.
And it's just there's always excitement surrounded around McGregor. And I just got into the UFC personally when they were the only sport, like you mentioned before going to break, when they were the only sport actually running during the pandemic in the spring. I just got into the UFC around then, and I'm starting to really, really fall in love with it. It's really an awesome sport. I mean, what other sport do they go and just try to just kill each other? I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it takes a real sick person to do it, but I mean, hey, it's really awesome. Anytime McGregor steps in, like I said, you're always in for a treat. So I'm definitely excited to watch it. Like I said, Alex and I, when we were staying in Middletown, we were watching all the fights every Saturday. Kind of got me used to the scoring, so I know how that's scored and stuff now, expanding my UFC knowledge, but I'm definitely excited for it.
JT, we had talked before. Obviously, this has heavy implications on a title shot. The bout is not for the title. How do you see them going about getting the title off of Khabib, whether or not he'll fight? I'll get right into that in a quick second. This has to have heavy implications on a title fight, no, JT?
No, for sure, but as for Khabib coming back for the fight, I don't see it happening. He swore on his father's grave, and for a guy like Khabib, that means a lot when he says something like that.
Especially in his culture.
Yes, I mean, Joe had kind of talked it over with us fight-wise. I mean, the Russians have a complete different dynamic, he had mentioned again. Credit to Joe. 1980 Olympics, not to mention my close personal family member, Michael Ruzzioni.
Also another friend of the program over at Redline Sports.
Not a big deal. The Russians just have a different way of thinking. I mean, they saw the joy on the Americans' faces. I mean, that was definitely a good point I wanted to bring up. As I had mentioned, people do weird things for money. Money gets people out of bed. Money talks. And JT, I've been trying to pry this quote out of you for a long time. For, the 2 months that we've known you. Long time in the sense of 2 months that I've known you. Khabib isn't going to get out of bed for this fight, no matter how much money he's earned. Even everything with this culture. I mean, think of for his brand, his money. Yes, he's got a ton of it. But, I mean, to go smash McGregor again, why wouldn't he get out of bed? Justin, I'll open that question up to you, I guess.
A wise man once told me, there's some things money can't buy. And that's certainly what we're looking at here.
All right, so I'll get into prediction time here. JT, any final thoughts on the Khabib argument, I guess you'd say?
It's not about money, man. It's an honor thing,
Honor from Khabib to his family, obviously losing his dad right before his title fight against Justin Gaethje, making him 29-0. Prediction time as we wrap up the segment. Justin, Fairweather fan, McGregor, Poirier. How can Poirier do it? How can McGregor do it?
As dominant as McGregor has been in fights, he's also pretty good at calling his fights. I'd take the Notorious first round knockout. Give me Notorious.
He wants Notorious. JT, gonna get your prediction. Poirier, McGregor 2. You've been on the different side of Justin and I. How's the fight's gonna go? Like you've said, you want a drawn-out bloodbath. Who's gonna be on the winning side?
As much as I want to agree with you guys, I love McGregor too. I feel like Poirier is just gonna come into this fight wanting it more. He's gonna remember last time and just come into this one knowing
he needs to get it done, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So JT going Poirier by decision, you said, correct?
Yeah, 5-round slugfest, bloody, a massacre.
So
in the distance.
Going the distance for GT. Justin's got a first round KO. I'll tell you how it's gonna go, in my fair, wise opinion, as I hopefully would get the respect from my counterparts, is that McGregor has the power. He can shut the lights out. He does not have a lot of fight time. 6-2, only 8 fights to Poirier's seemingly 13 fights, and which Poirier's last fight went the distance with Dan Hooker, very skilled. Poirier is going to have to grind McGregor out. He's going to have to get McGregor to the ground. McGregor has still an unproven ground game, as he saw against Nate Diaz and Khabib. Obviously 2 top-level ground grapplers, but McGregor has the power. That's the problem. The intimidation factor, not there, I'd say, as much as back in the day, 7 years ago. McGregor, knockout, I'd say. Again,
first round?
He's got the power.
Did he call a shot again? Is he like Babe Ruth?
He's
going to the outfield?
I like the Babe Ruth analogy. And you know what? I told you how Poirier can win, but I'm going to go McGregor. First round knockout. Mystic Mac again in the flesh. He's fighting for a title. Is it against Khabib in 2021? I don't know. But enough about the UFC. McGregor Poirier going to be next Saturday night. Be sure to look out that. I know pay-per-view's up. But much like Conor McGregor, we get a certified winner in Tom Brady in the NFC. Does he have a path to the Super Bowl? I'll tell you why he does right after this quick break.
Also, don't try to cheat Uncle Dana out of the pay-per-view. He said he's got a surprise coming.
You don't want that.
Out of the pay-per-view. I wouldn't mess with that guy. Personally, I wouldn't.
Nope. Want to thank JT for hopping on for his UFC portion. Always bringing a lot to the table.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Well,
JT, definitely the glue guy, I'd say. Always good for hanging around for a nice little quick witty antidote, I'd say.
And I have some more news for you. Celtics talked to the Rockets about James Harden. The price was really high for the Celtics. And you know what? That might be a good thing because I wouldn't want James Harden in a Boston Celtics uniform for obvious reasons.
Celtics are good where they are. They have all the talent they need. Do they really need James Harden? Yes, it would help, certainly, but I couldn't see the fit. I don't know if he's so much a cancer as he is a ball hog. You know what? And we already have a couple ball hogs, I'd say, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart as of late throwing up the 3 ball, which is terrible.
Here's my frustration with James Harden going to the Nets, though, is that we just got out of the super team narrative in the NBA. Obviously, Golden State not really having one. LA was close to it. Now we're back to a super team. One might say it could crash and burn. It very well could crash and burn with all those ball-dominant players in Brooklyn. It's going to be interesting, though. It sure is.
So we get 2 minutes before we head back into the show. The next thing now, who's LeBron going to get for his third piece? Because you know what's going to happen.
LeBron's going to get his third piece. Who's it going to be? That's a great question. As I get the rejoinder in the back of my ear here, I'm going to pull this one back a little bit so I don't get distracted. Dennis Schroeder, which was a great signing for them. They get Montrezl Harrell, another great signing for them. He's going to get his third guy. It's LeBron James.
I don't know. Who will it be, though? I would have said Oladipo. I don't think he brings to the table what LeBron would want. That's the thing.
Well, Oladipo now going to Houston.
Right.
And
Same way, he's still looking to be shopped, too.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he's still up in the air, still being shopped. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Right.
But I like where the Celtics are right now, especially in the East. Teams in the East have been interesting. It's going to be weird, though. We're going to see what happens with this ball-dominant players all on one roster in Brooklyn. It's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see it. And I can't agree more with Stephen A. Smith. Kyrie's going to call it a quits. He's got to call it a quits. The guy clearly doesn't want to play basketball anymore.
You know what? I saw that quote, and Stephen A. Smith doesn't hit a ton, I'd say. I mean, he's certainly qualified. He doesn't hit a ton on his hits, but Kyrie Irving retiring would not shock me in the least bit. It just seems like he's not focused on ball, especially during the season,
Right.
But
as I share it out on Facebook again.
We got about 20 seconds left till we get into our last segment of the day. Appreciate everybody joining up here. The NFC playoffs. We got 10 seconds, so we're back here. All righty, I got to quit this commercial real quick, and we'll get right back in with. So we got the NFC divisional round matchup here as we close off the show. Tampa Bay Bucks, New Orleans Saints, Green Bay Packers facing the LA Rams. No, it is not a quadruple threat match. We got the Rams and the Packers going first here. Justin, MVP, Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Offensive Player of the Year, arguably Devontae Adams.
In my opinion, it's Derrick Henry, but definitely a candidate. I mean, only 9 players have rushed for 2,000 yards, including Derrick Henry. 8 players prior to Derrick Henry have rushed for 2,000 yards. In my opinion, it's Derrick Henry, but let's not get sidetracked.
The matchup pits Green Bay's number 1 scoring offense against LA's number 1 scoring defense. Now, that stat holds some weight, but how big is it, though? I mean, realistically, is Aaron Rodgers turning the ball over?
You'd be surprised. This is the 3rd playoff game in the last 50 seasons between the passing touchdown leader, and the defense that allowed the fewest passing touchdowns that season. The touchdown leader is 3-0 in such games.
Another interesting stat.
Oh, right?
I mean, maybe, again, holding a ton of weight? I'm not really sure. I mean, you got to get Aaron Rodgers to turn over the ball in order to score on defense. There's no secret. Or Aaron Jones to cough it up, Devontae Adams, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, whoever it might be coughing up the ball. Obviously, to be a scoring defense, got to get the ball in the other team's hands while, obviously, they possess it. Anyways, another matchup to look out for, Devontae Adams and Jalen Ramsey, both named first-team All-Pro and likely will line up across from each other plenty of times on the playoff game. First All-Pro honor for Adams and the second for Ramsey, 2017 with Jacksonville, seemingly traded for a bag of footballs. The Rams' defense is no joke, but their stroke of luck has not been so good, especially against in the Seahawks team, losing John Wolford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, who is set to play Saturday.
The Terminator, in Sean McVay's words, the Terminator should be ready to go. But, Alex, I'm glad you brought up this Adams and Ramsey point. Amari Cooper in week 1 was the only player with 50 or more receiving yards while being covered by Jalen Ramsey this year. But this is the first playoff game since the 2011 AFC Championship game to feature a player with more receiving touchdowns than the opposing team allowed in the regular season, and that's Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, I mean, anything coming his way, it's in his hands.
Absolutely.
Anything coming into his hands.
And he was finally able to have a healthy season where he kind of really showed what he's capable of. He's been riddled by injuries the last couple of years. Finally, a full season, and he's had an incredible season. Like you said, could be an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. I don't think it goes to him, but definitely could be mentioned in that conversation.
Now, I'm going to correct you there real quick. He did miss a few games early on in the season, but to your point, still leading wide receivers in touchdown catches. I mean, catching touchdowns, 2 or 3 touchdowns a game is going to get you up there, especially when you miss the first few. He's dynamite.
Right.
Coming up against Jalen Ramsey, though, I don't know. I mean, he's a lockdown corner, but again, Adams is an elite talent. It's an interesting matchup to say the least.
And the Packers are the only team other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense remaining in the playoffs. Their offense ranked 5th, their defense ranked 9th. They have the MVP on their side, which is definitely a bonus. They have Aaron Jones, who can run the ball very well. They're actually, I don't know if you caught this, they signed Jared Valdir to play left tackle for them this week. Jared Valdir started for the Colts last week. He was set to be the first player in NFL history, probably in the NFL ever, to play ever. And when I say ever, I mean that it might not happen again if there's no COVID list next year. We'll have to wait and see. He played for the Colts last week. He would have been the first player in NFL history to play for two different teams in the same postseason. Unfortunately, he will not be doing such as he tested positive for COVID-19 this week. So we are close to a milestone there. But regardless, that was just kind of fun fact I wanted to put out there. Jared Goff, I mean, this is going to be the focal point here. He's not fully healthy with a throwing thumb injury.
He's coming at the Seahawks game. 11 days since his surgery for his broken thumb. How much less of an ideal situation is that?
Especially if you're a quarterback with your throwing hand. Not something you want to do in two career starts in games below 35 degrees. Jared Goff has no passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions at a passer rating of just 34.5. That's just not going to cut it against the Green Bay Packers. And I guess that gives you a nice segue into the predictions here, Alex. Again, that's not going to cut it. I like the Packers.
Justin, going right to the Packers. Steve, Packers, Rams. You've been sitting on the convo as he comes back in for GT. How do you think the game's going to swing?
I'm thinking more Rams. I mean, if they're going to get Donald back, I mean, then I think their defense is going to get some work and maybe stop the ball.
And so, Steve, going with the Rams. Donald and the line going to stop Green Bay on the offense. Justin going with the Green Bay offense. Monty Adams, they can get the victory. This will be a closer game, one of the closer games on the weekend. See what kind of Jared Goff you get with the broken thumb, or healing thumb, rather.
He's been surprisingly good in the playoffs, might I add, Jared Goff.
Incredibly good. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a dark horse. I think they paid him a lot of money for a reason. Has he been inconsistent? Yes, you could say so. But he's ready to go.
In a year that the NFC, there was really no clear-cut number one team in the NFC. I mean, you could say Green Bay, New Orleans, Tampa Bay.
Even Los Angeles for that.
That's what I was getting at. You can throw the Rams in there. And so something interesting there. But, Alex, the reason I moved so quickly through that one is because I just can't wait to touch on this next one.
So I'll go Packers here. Rams, it's going to be it's going to be a close-knit game. And let's be real. The Rams are going to show up. I think the element of being in Lambeau will be the deciding factor. I mean, the Rams, they play in the Dome. Lambeau Field's like the weather. Haunts opposing teams.
Frozen tundra.
Look at Dez. I mean, Dez is still pondering if he caught it or not. And that did, of course, happen.
And he did catch it.
In Lambeau Field, he did catch it, however.
He absolutely did catch it.
Changing gears, though, as I mentioned going into break, the GOAT, Tom Brady, playing the Saints, third time this year. I have made it a point as my run-up to this game. The hardest thing to do in sports is beat a team 3 times. 3 times. That's what the Saints have to do this weekend. And Tom Brady, I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. I don't even know what happens after that.
What even is it after that?
I don't know, but Tom Brady's going to go into New Orleans and win. That's what's going to happen.
This game is apparently going to be played on the History Channel via Tom Brady's Twitter. I don't know if you saw that. He thought it was a hilarious joke that it's going to be played on the History Channel.
I thought it was an old man. That's one of those old men. Like, oh, look at they look old. Ha ha ha. Funny. No, not really, Tom.
That's exactly what happened. This will be the first time 2 quarterbacks age 40 or older will start an NFL playoff game. Not only that, it's the oldest quarterback matchup in any NFL game ever.
Right. I mean, you look at the Vinny Testaverdes playing up there, the Doug Flutys, John Elway's, Brett Favre's of the NFL. No one has set the test or stood the test of time, much like Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And you can say what you want about Brees. You can say what you want about Brady with their arm strength. They're in the playoffs. They're not going golf and collecting their paycheck for the Jags, the Jets, whomever it might be, the bottom feeders. They're here still to win, and their drive is larger than ever.
Especially for Drew Brees, a guy who this is it. He's kind of made it clear that this is his last season. Alex, you're quick to say the Bucs are going to win this game. The Saints have beaten the Bucs twice this year, including that 38-3 landslide in Week 9 on Sunday Night Football in Tampa Bay. Teams to sweep the regular season series are 17-7 at home in the playoffs all time. Not only that, Drew Brees is 5-2 against Tom Brady in his NFL career, including playoffs. That's the best record among any quarterback, which is kind of interesting because, for years we've been begging for a Tom Brady, Drew Brees Super Bowl matchup, whether it's a Super Bowl or the playoff. Well, now it's the playoffs. We get a playoff matchup, but obviously when Tom Brady was playing in the AFC, we were begging for that Super Bowl matchup. But Alex, as I say that, I'm actually going to go with you, and I'm going to pick the Bucs in this one too.
You know what? A great thing that the Washington football team did was knock Tom Brady down. That was the biggest focal point. You need to knock Tom Brady down to win. Well, they didn't. Skill level doesn't match up there. The Saints can knock them down. The prime matchup here is going to be the wide receivers versus the Saints secondary. That being Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Throw Scotty Miller in there. They're facing off against Marshawn Lattimore, Malcolm Jenkins, Marcus Williams, and Janoris Jenkins.
Don't forget about big number 87 there, Rob Gronkowski. The Gronk.
I love you, Tommy. I love you, Gronk. That was so ridiculous, the videos they did. But you know what? Saints top secondary, going to match up great. But Tom Brady can still, what he did New England is deke and dunk, get the 10-yard play, get the 8-yard play. He's still going to be able to get it done. And what Tom Brady does, to your point, about the 17-7 record against teams that have swept the season series in the playoffs, he defies the odds.
He does. Absolutely.
One of the biggest all-time underdogs against the Rams in his first Super Bowl, 28-3, beating the number one Rams offense just a few years back, still getting the win there. You could say, yeah, maybe the defense still beat by 10.
And they also, like I said earlier, have a top 10 ranked defense as well. And Alex, here's the reason I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win. The New Orleans Saints, they love to make dramatic exits in the playoffs. They love to do it. Like we said earlier, 3 years to the day, the Minneapolis Miracle.
Right.
3 years to the day. Talk about dramatic exits. There you go. Yeah, 100%. That doesn't get much dramatic more than that. Tampa Bay is also heating up at the right time. Brady's 5-0 with 14 passing touchdowns and just one interception since the Week 13 bye. Antonio Brown, 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games.
As someone who seemingly had a slow start back in Tampa, Brady loves Brown for some reason. I don't get it. There's just some kind of connection. Some kind of connection. I mean, he's hitting his stride to where he was in Pittsburgh again, and that's great for him. You know what? Yes, he has his demons off the field, and I'm sure he's lost some fans for that.
Well behaved since ever since that home invasion thing. Whatever happened, what did he do?
I couldn't tell you.
Like threw a rock at somebody or something.
I mean, he just seems that he just gives you that type of guy. But you know what? He's cleared up his action so far this year. He's played great football, and that's all you can ask for the guy, especially for the Buccaneers. And Brady loves to throw to him. He's going to get the ball. You got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to compliment you. There's no better way that the Bucs can get this done than through the air. Tom Brady going back to his, New England roots, deke and dunk, and he can get it done. We'll get right in. I'll let you finish, and then we'll get into prediction.
And another thing is the Saints rely heavily on their run game. The Buccaneers have allowed the fewest rushing yards per game and rushing touchdowns in the NFL this season. Another stat to note, hopefully can contain Alvin Kamara a little bit as well as they can. I mean, he's obviously tough running back to contain, but a lot easier said than done, but definitely have the defense to do so. And Alex, I know you wanted to jump into the predictions, so I'll let you segue into that.
I mean, Tom Brady, the guy is the GOAT. 6 Super Bowls, multiple MVPs, 42 starts in the playoffs for Tom Brady. How many wins? 31. Going to be 43. He's going to add another win. Tampa over New Orleans through the air. Tight defense for Tampa. I don't think it'll be the biggest defensive game from both sides, but they're going to get the extra stop that they need. The Saints going to try and run the ball. Probably will be successful just because it's the strength of the playoffs that gets the fight out of the guys. Tampa going into the Superdome. My biggest point here, hardest thing to do is beat a team 3 times, especially in football, especially when you're facing off against Tom Brady. He defies the odds throughout his whole career. He's going to do it again against the Saints.
And I don't know how anyone could pick against the Buccaneers in this one. Certainly the Saints have a chance. Obviously, this game's going to be tight. But if you look at this, the Buccaneers, you give Tom Brady, who has been to 9 conference championships in his career, you give him this offensive weapons that he has in the playoffs to boot, it's hard to pick against Tom Brady. I've learned my lesson picking against Tom Brady, and I refuse to do it. I told myself I'd never do it. Tom Brady's going to his 10th conference championship. Give me the Buccaneers, slight underdogs.
Steve, last pick for the show, Bucs and Saints.
I'm going for the Saints. I know you guys don't like that answer, but I'm gonna pick the Saints because I mean, just because they lost 3 times, I mean, they'll probably prove something this game. I mean, with Michael Thomas,
Snap
Kamara.
boy.
I mean, who knows what they can do, like with their weapons and stuff.
It's true. I mean, both great
Again,
sets
it's
of
going to be a close game.
great sets of weapons on both sides, no doubt. So that's just going to about do it for us. 99.9, The Attack, Unsportsmanlike Conduct, our CSB final radio show. I've been your host, Alex Jaworski, joined by my good pals Justin Turpin, Steve Murray, JT Torres in the classroom currently. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope we filled up an hour for you. Hope we sparked some debate, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks again.